A lot of people compared AEW to WCW. It's on TNT and TBS. It's hard to resist. It's a challenger to WWF, WWE. It seems a lot like WCW in some ways, but all the wrong lessons in that regard were applied to analyzing AEW by applying a 2001 media ecosystem to WCW. Something that I wrote in February 2021 about the wrestling business. I expect this company's viewership to decline indefinitely. Popularity may even continue to decline. I believe the quality of the content is a turnoff to many fans, and I see no remedy in sight while the head of creative remains in his current position. And viewership may fall marginally below the rate of general viewership habits. But those crude viewership numbers without context are not the key factors to monitor when trying to assess the outlook of the company's media rights value. Rather, there are other more important levers, some which are hard to value with only publicly available information like crude TV ratings. And that, of course, was not about AEW. That was about WWE that was having issues with its viewership back in 2021 at a very different time when it had a different head of creative, when it had different trajectory for its TV ratings. And that is the history here for AEW that has repeated itself. Not the history of WCW. Jamie Kellner and whoever the boogeyman is that's going to come and cancel AEW because they just don't like wrestling. The lesson here is not WCW in 2001, but WWE in 2018. That's not something that documentaries have been made about, and hundreds of retrospective podcasts have been made about, and 2018 WWE is not yet a part of anyone's nostalgic childhood. And the wrestling media, honestly, didn't get a handle on what happened with WWE in 2018 when it happened. And it's not a narrative that's out there that's ingrained and internalized into everyone's brains. It's not a story that's been told and retold 1,000 times. And it's a lot more interesting and emotionally captivating to talk about how AEW might die, just like WCW did in 2001. It'll probably be profitable for the first time, maybe next year. That's one side. That's the positive side. That's the media rights value is good despite declining popularity side. But there's also a negative side. And yes, we're going to get to the negative side. This company actually does have some weaknesses. So viewer discretion from here is advised. We're seeing a similar hope and frustration cycle today with AEW. That was a phenomenon with WWE throughout the Vince McMahon 2010s because of, in fans and analysts' minds, there is a fundamental misunderstanding. There is this false assumption that booking a rational promotion is a top priority. AEW is like WWE in the 2010s in that I don't think it is a promotion that is booked rationally in the way you think it is. And what do I mean by that? WWE in 2018 was driven by Vince McMahon's specific whims and neuroses. AEW is run to appease talent. Building drama and creating stars and telling compelling stories, those things come second to that. And I think the talent likes Tony Khan. He's nice and he's accommodating to them. But I think he still lacks the trust and authority to enforce a coherent creative vision that meets the vision of some of the hope that I see out there. Having a coherent creative vision and executing it would risk his relationships with roster members and possibly actually damage talent morale. And I'm sure people in AEW are telling themselves a different story. But I can't forget the 8-minute non-answer that Tony gave on a media call about 2 years ago when I asked him what he'd learned up to that point about how to manage talent. He ended up talking about like the Jaguars for something like half of that response. And we've seen this issue in AEW manifest in a number of ways, both on screen and talent acting out, most memorably and most damaging to their business with CM Punk, who is now nearly a year into his WWE run. And if he's having any personal problems with people in WWE, hardly anyone knows about it, and whether or not people there like him or dislike him aside, yes, he's not had any major issues or fights backstage that are leading to him being suspended and whatnot. But expecting AEW's creative trajectory to improve, to help this company's popularity, has become an irrational expectation based on false assumptions that I don't think AEW's content prioritizes rational booking to achieve that goal. AEW is a promotion for talent first and fans second. That's why there are 16 titles, and yes, I counted. There's a little hierarchy on the card, and nearly all matches have either an obvious winner or an interference finish, because it would be a judgment on talent to do otherwise more often. And AEW has great wrestlers, and all of them are great. All the matches are great. All the shows are great. There's so many great things and great wrestlers, and none really greater than any other, it seems. There is one remedy that I see that is realistic, and it's not related to creative. It's related to expanding AEW's distribution through broader platforms, and that'll happen next year, as Dynamite and Collision will be on Max in addition to on major cable networks. And maybe they'll expand the reach by getting on a broadcast network as well, maybe Fox, maybe another one. And that will expand the number of homes that AEW is in, and that will have at least a gross benefit, if not a net benefit, to AEW's popularity, because they will just have more access to their product across the country. And that has helped WWE in this period that I'm comparing it to, when we think about how WWE in 2014 was benefited by the expanded reach of pay-per-views on the WWE network. WWE in 2021, despite all of this creative that was turning fans away, that was making TV ratings decline, that was making attendances decline. Does this sound familiar? And then they had their reach expanded in the form of the W Network. More people watched the pay-per-views. They had the reach expanded of the pay-per-views again when those pay-per-views went on to Peacock into, rather than 1.5 billion homes, some 20 million homes, now 30 million homes in the form of Peacock. And that staved off the popularity decline that the creative was causing. And we saw it in attendance. We saw it in TV ratings declining worse than the rate of cord cutting. We saw it in attendance that have no headwind like cord cutting for an excuse. And AEW might have a remedy here in stabilizing what has been these declining ratings and declining attendances by expanding the reach of their content into, rather than 65 million homes, into some 80 million homes or 90 million homes or something like that out of the 120 million homes that there are. And that is something that could act against the decline that we're seeing. But the root issues cannot be addressed, because the root issues are issues of creative leadership and involve the person leading creative, who also happens to be the CEO and also happens to be the controlling owner. And little will change until that changes, or until there's real introspection